Hello, I'm Lisa from Little Bird SOS, and today I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful woven wall hanging from sticks and yarn. So for today's tutorial you're going to need 6 weaving sticks. If you haven't got weaving sticks, you can make your own. These are chopsticks with a hole drilled at one end. You can also use straws as well, and I'll show you how to do that later. You'll also need a pair of scissors. You'll need some thread, really strong thread, so this is crochet cotton that you thread through these holes here. You will need a darning needle, so that's a needle with a big hole at one end so you can thread wool through it. Whoops. And then also, this is optional, a needle and thread in case you struggle to get your yarn through these holes here. Also some threads for your weaving. I've got a variety of textures and colours here, and I'm going to use today this photograph that I took. This is looking from St Ives Harbour over to the Hale estuary, and I'm going to use these colours for my wall hanging today. So the first thing we need to do is set up our weaving sticks. First we need to thread some cotton into these holes. These are called the warp threads that run down, and when we come to the weaving bit, they're called the weft threads. So the warp threads go downwards and the weft threads go across. So what I'm going to do here is just get a short piece of this cotton, thread it through the hole. Oops, let's try the other end. So through that hole there, and then just tie a simple knot at the end, like so. And there's your first one set up. I'll just show you that again, but I just want to show you what to do if you struggle to get this yarn through that hole. So this is where this needle and thread comes in handy. So what I'm going to do is just thread that through that hole, but not pull it all the way through. And then I'm going to pass the cotton through like that, so it's held in that loop, and then it's in a knot. Simply pull it through like so, and tie a knot in it. So you need to repeat that with the remaining 4 weaving sticks. Now that I have all the threads loaded onto the weaving sticks, we're now going to add the warp threads that will hold your woven fabric together. So I've chosen this lovely sort of deep sea coloured yarn, and you can just literally thread it through like that, so it's just hanging over your threads, your white threads there, but you run the risk of that being accidentally pulled out. So what I'm going to do is I know it is a pressure knot, but I know some people call it something else. I'm going to fold this yarn in half, and this is about just over, I think it's just over a metre long, so I'm folding it in half, and I've doubled it as well. Thread that through the cotton so there's a loop, and then get the end of the yarn and push it through like so, and then that's held securely, so if it accidentally gets tugged on, it's not going to come undone. I'll just show you that one more time. So that's 2 strands of yarn about a metre long that I laid side by side, folded in half, and then through the cotton, thread that through so it makes a loop, and then get the tail ends, push that through the loop and pull. And you need to repeat that with the rest of your weaving sticks. Now I've got some here that I did earlier. So what we have now is 6 sticks all loaded up with the warp threads below. There, they're quite long. So next I'm going to show you how to start your weaving. So using my picture for inspiration, I've chosen colours that match or closely match the colours in this picture. So you start by holding all of your sticks in one hand. Just make sure your warp threads are untangled. And I'm going to start at the bottom. I know it's green here, but I'm going to choose this, just a neutral colour, just to get things going, to hold the sticks together. So I'm just opening the middle, so there's 3 on one side and 3 on the other, and I'm going to start by dropping about 1 inch of that behind and holding that with my finger like so, and then bringing it to the front, and then weaving goes over and under. We're at the end already, so I'm going to go all the way around, bring that back to the front like so, and then go over, under, over, under to the end again. I'm just going to push that down. What you want to be aware of is not pulling it too tight. So I'm just pulling that a little bit, but if you pull it too tight, it's going to be difficult to get it off at the end. So we're back at the end again. So I'm going to go all the way around and bring it to the front, and then we're going to go over, and this time you'll notice that we're going opposite to what we did before. So we're now going over that stick, and where we went over it here, we're now going under, and then here we're going over, under, over, back at the end, making sure we're not too tight, and then I'm going to go back just past the middle and drop that at the back, because I've finished that row now. So I just get my scissors and just cut about 1 inch off like so, hold that down with my finger. So the next colour I'm going to start with is this green here. So I'm going to do a row of green, and I'm going to start where I finished. So where I finished there, so that's where I went over, I'm going to just go over that last stitch one more time with a new thread. So drop that down and start weaving back and forth, over and under like so. Push it down, over, under, over, under, and I'm going to stop here because I'm going to show you now how to add in a block of colour. So what I'd like to do now is add in this little bit of colour here. So I'm just going to leave that working yarn dangling down the back, because I quite like to pick it up again in a moment. So I've got this colour, sandy coloured yarn, and I'm going to start in the sort of near the edge here. So I'm going to drop that down the middle, trap it with my finger, and I'm just going to weave over and under just a few sticks. I'm not going to go all the way to the end. There we go, over and under, but I'm stopping short of the end. I'm going up to about the 4th one for a few rows, and then for the next one I'm going to go just up to the middle one. And then just around 2 here, and again. And what I've created is a wedge of colour. I don't need to do any more of that, so I'm going to snip that one off. and then I'm going to pick up this green one again and start weaving that in. So I'm going to just go around these few end sticks like so. Whoops. Back and forth. So you can see that that colour is wedging in and fitting around that wedge, sorry. There we go. I'll go around that one this time. Push that down. Almost beginning to fill this in. You don't need so many wraps with this because it's thicker wool. And then I'm going to go over the top of that. So we're sort of going over where that sandy bit is. And then back to drop that down. I think I've got enough of that now. So I'm going to cut that one off. So I'll just show you the back. So can you see at the back we've got lots of strands of wool hanging down. Don't worry about that too much because we can neaten that off at the end. But what would be good would be to secure that very first strand of wool at the beginning. So what I'm going to do is use my darning needle and I'm just going to thread it up in between. It's a bit fiddly, this bit, so I've kind of started threading it, and then I'm going to just push that through the hole like so and just thread that a little way up the middle. And what this does is it stops it from coming undone at the bottom. That's the only place weaving will come undone, is at the beginning and at the end, but those in between, because they're sandwiched in between, they won't come undone. Unlike knitting, if you drop a stitch in knitting, you tend to get a ladder. So what I'm going to do next is show you how to weave in textured colours. So to weave in textured colours, I've got here 2 strands of yarn to match the colours in the picture. So this is quite a bubbly sort of yarn, and this is just an ordinary double knit yarn. So I'm going to start where I finished. So that was where the last stitch was. You just turn that over, we can see the last stitch went over there. So I'm just going to go over that stitch again, hold it down with my fingers at the back and start weaving. Back and forth, under, over. And what I'm going to do is sort of create an arch. So to do that, I'm going to just work on the middle 4 to start with. So not taking in the end, just going back and forth. And what's happening is the middle bit's getting built up, but the outer edges aren't, so it makes that almost like an arch shape. Oops. I'll just go around the middle too. I think that's enough for that. So now I'm going to do this little dark area here in the sea. So I've got this lovely, you probably can't see this very well on the camera, but it's a kind of a dark blue yarn with a little bit of blue fleck in it. So I'm going to start at these lower 2 here and start weaving back and forth to put that wedge in. So we've got a lot of weaving to do to fill in that gap just here, and you see there's a little bit of a steep section that needs filling. So I'm just going round almost in a figure of 8 to fill in that section there. There you go, you can see that that's been filled in now quite nicely. I'm just going to go over about 3 of them now. And as you push it and manipulate it, you can see that that pattern is fitted in quite nicely. So we'll just drop that down the back and snip that off. So what I'm going to do now is finish this off, and I'll come back with the finished woven piece, and then I can show you how we then move that onto the warp threads. So now I've finished weaving my piece of work, and you can see that I've kind of matched the colours. We've even got a little sliver of the beach there, and changed texture here to get the clouds. You'll notice that it's more spread out, so it's a little bit longer than this piece here, but I'll explain how to get it squished up later on. So what I'm going to do now is show you how to get this piece of work onto your warp threads down here. And so what we do is we start to push the sticks up like so, and keep pulling. There's a little bit of a knot there, so that might be troublesome. Keep pulling all the way through so it comes out of the top. Same again, push your stick and then pull till the threads come out of the top. Keep pulling. Just putting these a little bit straighter here at the bottom. Sometimes they catch, like now. Just going to pull that one through. A little bit of a knot inside that one, so it might need an extra bit of a tug. There we go. A little bit of the weaving's come undone here, so you might just need to repair it a little bit, like so. There we go. So the next thing I'm going to do is remove the weaving sticks by cutting these white threads up here. Make sure you don't cut your blue ones though. So I'm just going to cut those off. Like so. And just remove all those little threads. And the next thing I'm going to do is get my piece of driftwood and just thread it through those loops at the top, like so. So that the work's hanging over the wood, and then I can push all of that work here all the way up to the top so that that's nice and secure. So you can take some time to sort of manipulate it so you've got it as squished up as you like. So you can have it really squished up or spread out. The nice thing is if you've got a little bit of a wonky stick, you can actually get it to fit the contours of the stick as well. I'll just spread that out a little bit. I get it how I like it. There you go. Yeah, I quite like that. So the next thing I'm going to do is show you how to secure the bottom of the work. So the next thing we need to do is secure the bottom, and to do that, you'll see here where you've had your stick through, you'll have 4 threads coming out, and the same on the second one along. So what I'm going to do is take one strand from one side, one strand from the other, and just tie that into a knot. That noise you can hear in the background is my very large bird, is a Mealy Amazon parrot who's come to join me this afternoon. So then we'll take one from the second, one from the third, and tie those together. And one from the third, and one from the fourth. Tie those together with a knot. And the same until you get to the end. That's the last one there. And what that does, it stops your work from sliding down and keeps it secure and in place. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is show you how to remove all of these strands off the back. So the back of the work compared to the front looks messy, although some people actually like to leave some of these strands hanging down and make it a feature of their work. But I'm going to show you how to trim these up and make it a little bit neater. So this is where we ended here. So if I just snip that there, quite close to the fabric, you'll see, or rather the woven piece, you'll see it's not coming undone. So I just give it a slight tug and a little snip. The work stays intact, and that's because all of the fibres are tucked in and squished up together, and they won't come undone. The next thing I'm going to do is show you how to trim these strands that are hanging down. So now to finish off, all you need to do is cut the excess warp threads to the length that you would like your work to be. I'm quite happy with that there. And you'll notice on the example piece, and you see there, they look crimped, and that's because what I've done, I've undone each of these threads by untwisting them like so. So I've just untwisted them and then took out all those extra separate threads, separated them apart, and you get this really interesting crimped look, a little bit like if you plait your hair when it's slightly damp and leave it overnight. When you unplait it in the morning, you get that crimped effect. So I won't show you how to do all of that because it takes ages, but you can sit and untwist them and then you get this effect, or just leave them as they are. You could add some beads onto it if you wanted to, and essentially that's it. That's your finished wall hanging. You can add a little bit of thread across to make a hanger and hang it on your wall, hang it in your window. You don't have to use a picture for inspiration. You can just do the colours that you like, or the colours that you've got in your stash. You could use other things as well, for example little bits of torn up fabric. You might want to use an old pillowcase. You can use bits of nature, so weave twigs into it and little bits of grasses. Just experiment and try things. At the beginning I told you about weaving sticks and using chopsticks, but you can also use straws as well. So here's some paper straws that I've got, and you could either add a little bit of thread to the bottom and wrap a bit of sellotape around it. This method is okay, but you've got to be careful and be mindful that could come undone when you're pulling the sticks through your work. Well, the other alternative is to thread your strong thread and to a needle and drop it down and attach it at the top, so that becomes attached to the top and more secure, and then you can weave with your sticks in the same way that I showed you with the chopsticks. The downside with using straws is that you'll probably be only able to use them once or twice. You could also weave with just 2 chopsticks. So here I've set up just 2 with a strand of yarn and a little bead on the end. And what you would do then is weave in a figure of 8 fashion and slide your work down. And what you're left with then is a piece of work like this, and you can make a little loop at one end, and then the bead at the opposite end then becomes a little fasten for a bracelet. Or you could weave onto elastic, so you've got a stretchy bracelet. And the other thing I've done is weave onto pipe cleaners, so just join your pipe cleaners at one end like that, weave in a figure of 8, and then you're left with something a little bit like this that you could make into a caterpillar or a snake. Lovely activity if you've got young people in your life. Much easier to hold as well and manipulate. And there's lots of possibilities, so I hope we've inspired you a little bit to try different ways of weaving. I hope you feel inspired now to make your own stick woven wall hanging. If you would like to learn more about our online events, please click the link below through to our website. All of our online events are free of charge, but donations are welcome. Proceeds from this go towards supporting the delivery of arts for health in our local community to improve mental health and well-being. Thank you.